Welcome back, everybody, to the newest episode of the PenPodcast.com. I'm your host, Matthew Harms, founder of Pen for Hire, where we offer premier ghostwriting and author coaching services. Also, the creators of the Pen Podcast, where we sit with authors, writers, writing industry professionals, subject matter experts, and all around interesting people. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by Marc Joseph, otherwise known as Gramps Jeffrey. How are you today, Marc?
Great. Thanks for inviting me.
It is my pleasure. You are the first, I want to say maybe one of the first out of like 300 guests who writes under a pen name, who openly admits that.
Well, I don't want to confuse everybody. Gramps Jeffrey. My grandkids call me Gramps, and that's how come I write under that pen name.
Got it. Where did the Jeffrey part come in?
It happens to be my middle name. And the only reason I'm using it is because, for years, my wife always misspelled my name. It's spelled Jeffrey. She always spelled it the other way. And so I figured if I put it on a book, she'll learn how to spell my name. So that's why I am Gramps Jeffrey.
Did it work?
Yeah, it really works now.
I love it. I love those little success stories. Yeah. So let's dive in. So you're a children's book author, correct?
Kind of. That's my latest book is I Don't Want to Turn 3. But when I was in the business world, my book that I wrote was The Secrets of Retailing, How to Beat Wal-Mart. And so I've written a couple books and lots of articles, and that's what I do right now.
Knowing that you have such a diverse range of writing, I know I'm going to have a bunch of questions for you because I write fiction. Really, for my clients, I write nonfiction, and I've always wanted to get into the children's book aspect, but I can't draw to save my life. Even my stick figures are ugly.
Well, what's interesting is this book that I wrote, all of these pictures are pictures that I took because it's a fairly true story. And I just sent it to someone who could draw, and she's the one that made it look like into cartoons. But the reason I wrote this book, the children's book, is because living during the pandemic with COVID-19, we're isolation except for being able to be with your family. I was lucky enough; I had all my 6 grandkids with me for about 6 weeks, so I had a chance to really see what's happening and kind of look at what they do. All 6 kids have completely different personalities. The one thing that they did have in common was a sense of curiosity. Okay, and that's what we're all about, the sense of curiosity. How excited they got when they did accomplish something. Watching them grow year to year and see how they interact with each other really is the basis for this book. What goes through a toddler's mind? The parents are just so desperate to understand. When does a toddler really understand the difference between me and us? This book kind of explores how our family found out all of that together. As a baby boomer myself, I was trying to understand how the world really has evolved since I was 3 years old. And that's also kind of part of this story. My parents didn't have cell phones. They didn't have the internet. They didn't have cable TV. They didn't have remotes. I was my dad's remote. He said, "Son, go change the channel." That's what it was when I was growing up. My parents' definition of discipline is completely different than the parents of today. Has the day's world made for a better place for children to grow up in? I'll let your listeners kind of answer that question. And you kind of weigh as how we were treated when we were kids versus how the kids are treated today. So it's a fairly, it's a true story based on what happened with my family. And so I'm just sharing it with the world.
Love it. And I definitely want to get more into that because I can see that's where your passion is, but I was kind of trying to paint the backstory for people. When did you write that first book on the secrets of retailing, and what was the reason behind it?
I wrote my first book, The Secrets of Retailing, How to Beat Walmart. It's because back in the 2000s, I started this company, which became the premier business-to-business site on the internet, where we sold in case quantity to small businesses all around the world, shipped in all 50 states, around 40 foreign countries. Our customer base were the moms and the pops who are surviving, thriving as the chains. So we're building up this company online, and I was getting all these calls from these customers, about 30 calls a week, on how do you do this, what do you do that. So the book of the book of Secrets of Retailing is a step-by-step, 15 chapters, step-by-step guide on what do you do. How do you find your location? Where do you find your products? How do you hire people? How do you promote yourself, both traditionally and online? And the 15th chapter is, what do you do with your business? How do you exit your business? So that's what that book is all about, is just how to build a small business and then what to do with it.
I love it. And then did you write any more nonfiction, or after that it was into the children's books?
No, what happened was Arianna Huffington had read my book, and so she asked me to contribute to the Huffington Post. So I've written over 100 articles for the Huffington Post on all kinds of subjects from small businesses. But really, my more passion is the nonprofit world, education, homelessness, how to help people and things like that. So those are the kinds of articles that I wrote in between the two books. And currently, I also write articles today because, as you well know, we have started a new website called babyboomer.org. And you're part of it. You're on our site. I'm looking at you right now. You're a handsome face with all on our site with all these great podcasts that you do. You're part of our site. And the reason that we started babyboomer.org is myself and the three other baby boomers started it because, the baby boomer generation is as a diverse a generation as anyone before it and anyone after it, whether it's division in politics, as we can see today, just reading the news, today's news, diversity of religion, all the different ideas. We've got all of that as a division, but the one thing that baby boomers have in common is a connected, shared experience. And one of the reasons we have that as a generation is when we were growing up, there's only 3 television stations. We all had landlines. So we all got the same information. We all, not like today when you've got all the diversity of how to get information, but we all grew up with the same information. I mean, our generation was there for the Kennedy's assassination, Martin Luther King's assassination. We were there for the landing on the moon. That's all these things we have in common. Birth control became widespread during the baby boomer generation. Vietnam happened. We all had to live through that. We had riots in the streets back then. But the one thing that really brought us together was the music. Think about it. Elvis, Beach Boys, and the Beatles, and Three Dog Night, the Association, the Supremes. All of that music brought this generation together. The movies brought us together, whether it's Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, Jaws, or pretty much any of the Spielberg movies. Animal House, Star Wars, The Godfather. We have all those shared experiences. So we built this site for babyboomer.org that not only talks about our shared experiences of the past, but all of the other resources that we need for what's going on currently, whether it's retirement or finance or travel, we're playing pickleball, and then we have to, all the things we have to deal with in the future, with this technology. I didn't get on the internet until I was 40 years old. So my knowledge of technology is a lot different than my kids. I can tell you that from first-hand experience. All the health issues we have to go through, Alzheimer's, dementia, all that. We've got all that into one place for everyone to come and take a look and just to learn from all the information. So that is why we built babyboomer.org, and that's why we're glad you're part of it.
I love that description, and I was going to ask a question, but I'm going to save that for a second. I wanted to point out something, at least from what I see, is you spoke about connected and shared experiences, right, amongst the baby boomers. But I think one of the beautiful things, especially as writers, is being able to identify and convey those shared experiences that we as humans have across age groups, across religions, across races. We can all, I think, if we try hard enough or we get to know someone well enough, find a mutual shared experience that we can grow from and learn from, regardless of everything else I just mentioned.
Yeah, what's interesting is we originally built the site for baby boomers, but what has happened is because of the amount of information we have on the site. I mean, we've got over 60,000 pages of information. We've got over 400 contributors that help change the site every single day. The site changes every day because every day new information comes into it, and the front page changes. So, but we found that it's not just baby boomers who are coming; it's the baby boomer kids and the baby boomers grandkids trying to figure out this generation. The baby boomers, as you all know, were born between 1946 and 1964. So that's 18 years. That's 2 decades of this generation. And, there's 76 million of baby boomers. So it's not only baby boomers that are coming to the site, it's those who want to kind of understand, what are our priorities? What are we looking for? What are our concerns? And, because there's a whole section, a fabulous section on dementia. So if anybody's got parents or grandparents with dementia, it's great to come in for all kinds of information on what to do, because, that's one of the things we have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, and just even thinking, you mentioned music and the movies. So many younger people today, I don't think really even draw the correlation to how much of our stuff today has been sampled from previous generations and repackaged. And because of that, they overlook how much there is to learn, and how many specific needs or how many specific things there are to talk about. You mentioned the dementia. But there's not just even that. There's, for me, my father's moving in with me in the next 2 weeks because he's finally hit that age where he's like, you know what? Thankfully I've got a separate apartment in my basement. So it's not like he's moving into my house, but he's at that age, right? He was born in 46, not in need of assisted living or anything crazy, but he just doesn't want to be in that same apartment where he's been for the last 40 years when he has the option to come and be closer to his grandkids.
Oh, yeah. And you think about it, it's so important for us to be connected to our grandkids, this baby boomer generation. The one thing that's another reason that we started the site is because there's just too many grandparents in our generation that don't care about their grandkids. The 30%, that means 1 out of every 3 baby boomers just are not involved in the raising of the grandkids. I mean, they may show up at a birthday party or, come to Christmas, but they're just not involved. And that's a tough number. So that's great that your grandfather is moving in. Your dad's moving in to be with his grandkids because, there's all kinds of reasons that this is caused that we're not involved. Some of us say, hey, listen, I raised great kids. They'll take care of raising their kids. I got to go play pickleball. That's what a lot of the people say. But there's all kinds of reasons why we're not involved in raising these grandkids. I mean, we may not have liked the spouse you married. So, that automatically quickly creates all kinds of tension between the parent and the grandparent and not involved in there. We may be giving your generation unsolicited advice on how to raise the kids, what to do with them. We go beyond the boundaries of where we should be. We may be undermining the authority of you in raising your kids. And so that causes tensions. So there's all kinds of reasons why we as a generation that aren't involved, and we need to be there. Because when you think about it, these kids, 1 to 10 years old, are going to be the smartest generation this country has ever raised. I mean, think as soon as they come out of the womb, they're on the internet. They got their cell phones. They're so far ahead of anything that we ever were. And it's up to our generation, the grandparents, to kind of round out what they're learning. Take them outside to play. Read them a book. I mean, think about it. Your passion is books. My passion is books. We need to be reading these kids' books. Get them off their cell phones and get them into books. That's if grandparents can do one thing, that's one thing that we should be doing.
Yeah, and I think the baby boomer generation gets a bad rap for the whole "when I was your age" type of shtick, but at the same time, technology has advanced more in the last 20 years than it did in the 200 prior, right? So that accelerated learning curve. My kids are learning I didn't know 20, 30 years ago, right? Just because it's changed so drastically, and the ability to sit down and have a conversation of just because it wasn't like this when I was your age doesn't mean I'm too old, I'm too irrelevant. Because there are some baby boomers who use technology better than I do, but almost nobody uses them better than a child.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And going back to, thinking about reading books to kids, because that's what you and I are into. I mean, think about the benefits. Taking me as a grandfather as an example, if you pull a book out and you read it to a kid, that gives you like just 20 minutes with just you and the kid. Okay. And that gives you a chance to bonding. It gives you a chance to just spend some time away from what's going on in the real world, sit there on the kids sitting on your lap, gives you a chance to really spend together time and bond with them. Reading books to kids supports listening skills. Now, you and I both know that listening skills are the best things we have ever learned. I mean, you're a podcaster. You got to listen. What I do, I have to listen. So if we can teach these kids to listen just for 20 minutes, because that's how long a little kid takes to read, requiring to listen, that's a great skill that we can pass on to these kids. Reading books for kids creates cognitive and language development. I mean, you think about it, there's plenty of words in these books these kids don't know. So you get a chance to explain it. There's plenty of words I don't know. I got to go look up. So, that's another reason why we should be reading to these kids every single night. And then obviously attention span, 2, 3, 4, 5-year-olds, they bounce off the wall all day long. Get them on your lap for 20 minutes. You get a nice little concentration and self-discipline. So, I know that you love talking about books. That's the reason we should be sharing books with this youngest generation. All those kinds of things that just helps make them better than we ever were.
Yeah, I think that listening piece is so underrated because in order to do anything in life, it all starts with listening. Right? If someone were to ask me what's one of the key talents you need to be a great writer, it's not the ability to string words together. It's the ability to listen to the person who you're writing for, right? And to understand what their message, to understand their experiences, and then to be able to turn that around accurately and compellingly to give it to others.
Well, when you think about it, it's necessary for us to teach children how to think, not what to think. I think they're going to learn what to think as they grow older, but we need to teach them how to think. And so going back to reading books, how does that teach them how to think? Well, before you even sit down with a kid to read a book, you just want to say to them, what do you think is going to happen in this book? That starts the thinking process. And, who are the characters in this book? What is the setting? Again, getting them to think. Does anything in this book seem familiar to you? Let them compare it to what their life is versus fantasy versus other things. And then, after reading the book, just like you should be doing at dinner time, when you ask them what was your favorite part of the day, what was your favorite part of this book and why? So again, reading just helps bring everything together. It helps us to teach these kids how to think.
I love that. So we've got, I don't want to turn 3. How many other children's books do you currently have?
In my house, I probably have 100. In fact, my wife and I were just this weekend saying, well, our kids are growing a little older. Should we get rid of these younger books? So yeah, we'll keep them. You never know. So, I think everybody's got lots and lots of books. And so we want them to read. I want them to read my book, but of course, there's plenty of other great books around for them to read too.
Shame on me for not asking that question specifically enough. How many other children's books have you authored?
Oh, this is my first one. The next one I'm working on right now is I Don't Want to Turn 4. In fact, my granddaughter, who just turned 10, is one of the stars in this book. She came to me 2 weeks ago. She says, Graham, I got the title for our next book. And I said, what is it? She says, I don't want to turn 10. I said, wait, why don't you want to turn 10? She says, I got to start thinking about going to college. I said, going to college? That's 8 years away. Why are you even worried about that? She says, and I got to start thinking about it. How am I going to drive a car? I said, driving a car, that's 6 years away. Why are you worried about that? But when it comes down to it, when you think about it, no matter what age we are, I don't want to turn 10. I don't want to turn 21. I don't want to turn 50. I don't want to turn 70. There's all kinds of reasons for, what we've learned in the past and the uncertainty of the future. So that's where my head's at right now.
And I love that you've kind of set yourself up for an ongoing series of, just you run out when you run out of numbers.
Right, exactly.
Man, that is a clever marketing hack right there, Mark.
Well, the theme of my book is really at what age do we begin to take responsibility for actions? Is it 3 years old? Is it 13? Is it 23? I know plenty of 63-year-olds that still don't take responsibility for their actions. And so those are all kinds of themes that I think are really relevant almost at every age.
You're absolutely right. Where can people find the book?
They can find it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, or go to my site at grampsjeffrey.com or I don't want to turn 3.com. But anywhere on the internet is a great place to buy it.
Love it. Now, for the production of the book, did you do it all yourself? Did you go with a publishing company?
Oh, I went for the publishing company. I wrote the book. I took the pictures, and then, like, for instance, that's a picture of my 2 grandsons who love to take baths. One of them always wears his goggles. So I took the picture, and then the illustrator went ahead and turned it into a fun cartoon. So every page is like that. They're actual pictures that I took of the kids doing something, because it's a true story. The book's a true story, and so it was easy to kind of pull it all together.
That's ingenious. Unfortunately, all the children's books that are in my head do not involve, well, might involve my kids in some way, shape, or form, but they also involve made up, characters and things that I don't think I could take a picture of, like dinosaurs that play basketball. And but that is a very unique strategy. What comes next? Are you actively writing I Don't Want to Turn 4, or do you have another project that you're cooking around?
Yeah, I'm working on that. And then obviously babyboomer.org, our goal is to become the one-stop shop for where everybody can come and find information about our generation, and to help educate everybody, and to help our generation to kind of communicate with each other. Currently we've got 411 contributors on the site. We got 67,000 pages of information, so we've got books and podcasts and articles and blogs for everything. And again, because it's new things every day, the site changes. So I urge anyone who wants to come back every day, every couple of days, because there's new things of information that can be learned.
And how many people do you have on your team helping with that?
There's just the 4 of us. So it's the 4 baby boomers. Can you believe us baby boomers doing this? That are building this, and so that's why I encourage everybody to come. And we're always looking for contributors that would make sense for our audience.
Wow, that sounds like more work than I want to undertake. 4 of you running that is wow. Kudos to you.
Well, much like you have a passion for writing, we have a passion for making this site the best site for the baby boomer generation.
I love it. So for everyone that's looking to get in touch with you, find out more, we've got babyboomer.org. We have I Don't Want to Turn 3.com. We have grampsjeffrey.com.
That's correct. Or feel free to email me. It's grampsjeffrey@gmail.com. I'd love to continue this conversation with anybody.
Fantastic. Yeah, for everyone listening, as you always know, my spiel as we come up close to time is support our guests, find out a little bit more. If you're intrigued by anything that you heard here, at first I realized just how well you guys have put that site together, the impact it could make. So I challenge anyone to reach out to Gramps or Mark, whichever you prefer to call him. Mark, do you have a preference when people reach out to you?
No, either way, I answer by both names.
As I always used to joke, and the people ask, do you prefer Matt or Matthew? I'm like, you can call me anything, just don't call me late for dinner. So back to my end of podcast spiel, definitely head over to any of those 3 sites, reach out to Gramps at his email address. Any questions, if you're shy, reach out to me at the show, matt@penforhirenyc.com. I'm happy to point you in the right direction. And Mark, I really appreciate you taking the time to be here today. I feel like I learned a lot and definitely got some motivation on intergenerational relationships and maybe trying to kick the dust off some of my children's book ideas.
Great. I appreciate you inviting me. Thanks.
My pleasure. Thank you.